Do you have a business, organization, book, or movement you'd like to promote? Advertise through Red Pill philosophy and reach your goals. Click the link below to learn more. So a lot of people ask me what I read. What's my reading list? And I really gave up reading books a long time ago. Now I listen to books, audio books, because it's so much more efficient. You're stuck in traffic, you're working out, you're going for a walk, if you're doing groceries, you can just pop the headphones on, multitask. It's so much more efficient. I can't recommend audiobooks enough. You get to listen to really empowering information while you're stuck doing shit you hate. It's a win-win. So my list of things, I use Audible. They have a cool app for the phone and everything. My list of books is quite extensive. Most recently, I've been listening to The Unobservable Universe, a paradox-free framework for understanding the universe by Scott M. Tyson. Really, really cool book about what I've been talking about lately. This idea of quantum physics. Is reality objective or is it fundamentally subjective? Is reality, freaking matter, objects and things, and is matter the fundamental core of reality? Or, objective things outside of us? Or is the fundamental nature of reality subjective, consciousness as they call it? Really interesting book, highly recommend it. However, if you're interested in that, I do recommend instead to start off first with Biocentrism by Robert Lanza. It goes into it in such an eloquently beautiful way. Robert Lanza, by the way, is a stem cell research pioneer. So biocentrism, again, the idea that subjective life, consciousness, creation, that is the core of reality. And I'm actually releasing a video tomorrow that's going to blow your minds about that. So then I've got The Thank You Economy by Gary Vaynerchuk. Guys, I've talked about Seth Godin a lot. Well, Gary Vaynerchuk is like my new temporary obsession. This guy is fucking awesome. He's so entertaining to listen to. And he really talks, I've always talked about the connection economy, which is something Seth Godin, I first heard from him. Well, Gary Vaynerchuk pretty much calls it the thank you economy. And that's what this book is about. It's about how social media is evolving. And in reality, if you want to be successful in the coming connection economy or the thank you economy, it's really about establishing connections, making connections with your customers. This is no longer about just pummeling them with advertising and trying to take the money from them. It's about helping and empowering people. That is the future. Thank You Economy, definitely a must read. If not, at the very least, listen to his seminars on the internet. Gary Vaynerchuk, guy's a badass. Then we got The Element, which is by Ken Robinson. He gave that pretty popular TED Talk about do schools kill creativity? Honestly, I think his talk is pretty great. I'm listening to the book right now. I've actually learned a few new things about how evil modern schooling is. I didn't think I would, but I have, including how IQ scores were once used. They used to be used. IQ scores were initially designed to determine whether or not mentally retarded children should be in school or not. And now the mentally retarded masses are judged by it. A Universal Nothing, something I'm going to get to eventually, because it's Lawrence M. Cross. You see, when you believe in a materialistic view of reality, a materialist view, that causes you to believe you're forced to answer a question, and that is, can something come from nothing? Because if matter is the be-all, end-all, where did matter come from? Matter is bound by cause and effect, by processes, by rules. Where did the matter come from that comprises our reality? And you're fundamentally forced to come to the conclusion that matter came from nothing, which is, of course, a contradiction if you're coming from a mainstream scientific perspective. So Lawrence M. Cross, I got this book with the intention of debunking it, really. And it's not very difficult to debunk it because he basically spends 6 hours not answering the question until the last chapter, where he basically says, I still don't have an answer. The closest thing I have to an answer is that at the quantum level, virtual particles can pop in and out of existence. They can't pop out of nothing, which is, of course, a contradiction. He doesn't solve the contradiction problem. 1984, highly recommended. We've all heard about 1984, probably now with NSA spying, psychosis. Very entertaining book. Best way I can describe it, it is tragically horrifying, or horrifyingly tragic is the best way to describe it. I'll probably go back and re-listen to it because it's very well done. The narration is great. I don't usually listen to fiction, But because 1984 has basically become nonfiction, I listened to it, and it's an incredibly entertaining. I love the characters, love the dialogue, and it's so terrifyingly tragic. That's the best way I can describe it. 1984 is terrifyingly tragic. Must listen to. I'll skip that one because there's a more relevant one. Here's one by Seth Godin. We're All Weird. Pretty good, but I recommend better ones by Seth Godin. I'll get to that. The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. It basically talks about how science goes through revolutionary processes that are pretty predictable if you look at the patterns over the years, and that modern science is basically based on everything that science thinks is solid and true today almost always gets destroyed by a new revolution, a new cycle. So we had Newtonian physics, and people thought that was the be-all, end-all. Then we had, general relativity, Einsteinian physics. That was the be-all, end-all. And then we found the quantum world, quantum physics. Now that's the be-all, end-all. And according to Tom Campbell, author of My Big Theory of Everything, which doesn't have an audiobook version, but it is available free online, Google Books, My Big Theory of Everything. According to him, which I interviewed him, you can check that out in my playlist, or look through my videos, you'll find it. Interview with Tom Campbell. He says that the new revolution is the virtual reality, the virtual physics, the idea that we live in a virtual reality. That's the coming one. So anyways, this book is pretty good, but it's incredibly boring. It's very technical. It's read by in a very robotic voice. It's not the most entertaining book, but it at least gives you historical context. Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead. Honestly, I wasn't enjoying it. I liked the book when I read the book, but this audiobook version is a little something annoying as hell about it, so I don't really recommend it. Ultramind Solution, it's a dietary health book. Kind of boring. I don't think it's that great. The Gifts of Imperfection is by Brene Brown. She gave another really popular TED Talk titled The Power of Vulnerability, which I thought was incredible. But similarly to the Ken Robinson audiobook, I enjoyed his TED Talk more than I'm enjoying the audiobook so far. So I don't really recommend this one, but it is kind of good. It's basically about how we have to, if you want to make connections with people, if you want to have meaningful relationships, you have to be willing to make your true self vulnerable. So many of us walk around nowadays with shields put up between each other because we're afraid of getting our feelings hurt. So if we can pretend to be something we're not, if we can not put our real selves on the line, but this little ego self on the line, that if we get rejected by other people, then hey, at least it was my ego that got rejected and not my real me. So biocentrism, again, I already talked about that one. Highly, highly recommend it. If you want to get cutting edge truth, you want to get on the cutting edge of physics and what the implications of our studies of the universe are leading us towards, this is it, ladies and gentlemen. Mastery by Robert Greene. I don't really like this too much. I think it's pretty good in some levels. I like how it talks about how Charles Darwin hated fucking school and then left school. It's funny. The people who define so much of the modern schooling curriculum hated fucking school. But there's another book by Robert Greene that I recommend more. Sex at Dawn by Christopher Ryan. I think it's a must read, must listen to. It's witty, it's kind of funny. It talks about how, monogamy is not this fucking common thing that we think it is. It's common today, but the idea that we've always been that way and that it's evolutionary implanted in our genes, not true. And there's so many examples of cultures today, past, present, throughout centuries before, hundreds of years, thousands of years, who took part in frickin', all types of, crazy sexual behavior that was not monogamous in any way, shape, or form. Moving on to the second page here. I do read a lot of books, guys. I listen to a lot of stuff because, I just want to fill my mind with great information and then I could share it with you guys. So, Tribes, another pretty good book by Seth Godin, but the one that I really recommend, that I'm always talking about, is The Icarus Deception. Absolutely must listen to or read, whatever the guys choose. Absolutely must read. If you want to be aware of where this economy is going, if you want to be aware of what the future holds for just the way the world's going to work, the whole marketplace, and as well, if you're a creative person, you want to figure out, how can I really manifest the best possible art? This motherfucker breaks it down. Seth Godin, The Icarus Deception. Another one that I highly recommend is The Creature from Jekyll Island, A Second Look at the Federal Reserve by G. Edward Griffin. The actual book is like 30, the audio book is 30 hours long. It's long as shit. And the actual book itself is like gigantic. It's like this freaking massive thing. So it's cool because I hate reading, but I love listening to audiobooks. I usually don't like reading. Reading, don't like it. But The Creature from Jekyll Island basically breaks down deep history of the Federal Reserve System and how basically our money supply, the very dollar bills in your wallet. If you look to pull out a dollar bill, it's going to say Federal Reserve Note at the top. It's printed. It's governed by the Federal Reserve System, which is actually a private, not federal public, but private banking cartel who control the money supply. Ever heard that old saying, "Money is the root of all evil"? Well, I think it comes from the Federal Reserve and the way they took over the money system. Like, imagine if you had the power to print money at will. You know, you can control the whole fucking world. I mean, I forgot who it was. I think it was a Rothschild, one of these rich motherfuckers. One of the Rothschilds once said, give me control of a nation's currency and I care not who writes its laws. The Truth About the Drug Companies is a pretty good book. It's alright. Talks about the modern drug companies are fucking just raping us for profit. The book that I do definitely recommend by Robert Greene is going to have to be this one right here. It's titled The 50th Law. If I could just back up for a moment here. And The 50th Law is actually co-written. It's written by Robert Greene and 50 Cent, of all people, if you could imagine. And man, I never thought I would really admire some of 50 Cent's personality, but when you read The 50th Law, you're like, wow, this guy's fucking epic. So The 50th Law is basically about, it basically talks about, the thing that I love about it is how it goes into fear. That's really the key thing. It talks about fear and how the key to your success in life really is confronting your fear. Because I believe that the sensation of fear is a sensation that arises between you and what you want. So let's say you want to get a specific career. Fear arises when you think about that career choice and then become worried about whether or not you'll be able to achieve it and the challenges along the way, and then fear arises. So really, if you can just face what scares you, your life will improve, because fear is a signpost towards where you want to become but are afraid of what may not allow you to get there. So it's a book on fear. In the last chapter that goes into death and how death scares us, and if you overcome the fear of death, that last chapter, bam, blew me the fuck away. Absolutely fucking great. So I definitely recommend Robert Greene's The 50th Law. Science Set Free is another absolute essential book. Written by Rupert Sheldrake, it talks about the 10 most prominent scientific dogmas, the leaps of faith that mainstream science abide by in their modern views, and it just breaks it down with such eloquence and such just intelligence. I hated The Alchemist. Fucking regret ever getting that shit. Weapons of Mass Destruction and other absolute must-read if you want to find out how the modern educational system was deliberately designed to enslave us and make us subservient, dumbed down human resources, basically. Written by John Taylor Gatto, one of my top 5 audiobooks. Absolutely got to get that one. Game of Thrones, the audiobooks, just so, I don't know, I don't really enjoy fiction. Hope and Help for Your Nerves. I struggle with anxiety. I've told you guys about that. This book saved my life, really. Totally fucking, by Dr. Claire Weeks. If you struggle with anxiety, general anxiety disorder, panic attacks, Hope and Help for Your Nerves is a must fucking read. Running out of time on my little thingy here, so I'm going to try to finish this up quick. The War of Art, pretty good. Talks about resistance and how the main thing causing procrastination is your resistance. 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem was a pretty good book by Nathaniel Branden. If you struggle with self-esteem issues, that's definitely a good place to start. So The War of Art is definitely a good book, and I recommend it a lot because it talks about procrastination and why we procrastinate. And the main idea is that resistance is the source of procrastination. It's pretty good. I think it's probably a top 7 books. Another really good one is The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden. He was actually a disciple of Ayn Rand's. I actually applied he gives you like little exercises you can apply every morning. You fill out these little fill in the blank sentences, and I think they actually worked. I think they really improved my self esteem. Like I did it only for like a month. You're supposed to do it for like 6 months. I did it for like a month and a half every morning, and I don't know. I think it really fucking worked. I felt better. It was weird. It was fucking weird. It could be total placebo. Who the fuck knows? But it's a pretty good book if you have self esteem issues. If for some reason you just don't love yourself, which is totally insane, why wouldn't you? It's all you have. Might as well love it. I mean, what could be more unproductive than hating yourself? Craziness. Blowback, intensely boring, but essential information if you want to understand why American imperialism it does more to fuck us up than to make us safe. I never really read The Road to Serfdom. It's supposed to be about the economics from the Austrian perspective. Think and Grow Rich, I would say is within the top 10 category of the books I've ever listened to. By Napoleon Hill. It's almost 100 years old. And the guy basically followed he basically studied the most successful arbitrary ass term people. Basically, he judged success by how wealthy they were. And tried to figure out what the hell, how are these people getting this way? Is there a pattern? Is there a way to figure it out? And what's annoying is that in the book, at the very beginning, is like, it's a secret. And at the end of the book, I'm going to tell you what it is, but maybe you can figure it out. And then you get to the end of the book and he doesn't tell you. I don't know. I think he did it on purpose to leave it open to interpretation. So whatever your fucking subconscious mind thought it might be the answer, then you just apply it, and then by placebo alone, it works. From what I took from it, the actual secret was simply persistence. Because every single time these successful people finally got their big break of success, it was right after they were about to throw in the towel because they've been trying so hard for so long with no results. Every time they were about to throw in the towel, if they just persisted a little bit further over that edge, bam, the big break happened. They got the connection they needed. They got the publicity or whatever it was, and they achieved their success. I never read We the Living by Ayn Rand, though my older brother did, and he said it was good. The Biology Belief is a really interesting book by Dr. Bruce Lipton. And basically the premise behind it is that I don't think he's right. He's trying to take the implications of quantum physics but apply them to biology. I mean, I think really the implication of quantum physics is that biology is secondary to consciousness. It's not even primary. You don't have to worry about biology if you just get to the core. But he says that if you study cells, most cells in your body have little receptors attached to the outside of them that interpret signals, and that if you take that microcosm of how cells operate, the same is true for you as an individual entirely, the collection of cells. So your reality is determined by how you interpret things. That's kind of the gist of it, I think. The Way of the Superior Man is kind of a good book. I thought it was kind of cheesy, but if you're the kind of person who doesn't understand male-female sexual attraction, this book really breaks it down. It really gets to the core of the female feminine energy and the male feminine energy, how they work, and what's required for there to be attraction in the first place. It's a really interesting book. I recommend it. Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. Pretty good book, but mostly it's just, for me, it just sounds like regurgitated, cheesy, motivational speaking. So, Atlas Shrugged, 63 fucking hours. I remember this book has a special place in my heart. I just remember reading it. It was probably around January 2011 I began reading it. It took me about 3 months to finish it because it's so long. But I just remember going for walks and just listening to that shit, just totally enraptured by it, just going for walks, headphones popped in, and just being swept on a fucking journey. Fucking essential book, 63 hours, you do get your money's worth, and the book is pretty powerful if you're interested in concepts like self-esteem, individualism, self-love, how to view yourself in relation to others in the world, economics, politics, philosophy. It's fucking goddamn. It's just beautiful too. It's not just that it's deep philosophic stuff, but it's so beautifully written. So beautifully written. Fucking masterpiece. Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. This is like an excerpt of the book. It has like, it's condensed, like 2.5 hours, about 3 hours. And it's just, it's like the best parts of his book, The Power of Now, which I think is a very good book. I think it's pretty good, but I think he places too much emphasis on the now to the point where, actually, I did have a criticism. I can't remember exactly what it was right now, but I might do a video on that with it. Another book here, Ask and It Is Given, Law of Attraction, gay ass fucking book. I like this whole think positive and your desires will manifest. Literally, it says that there. I like that because I think thinking that way is certainly better than thinking that there are limitations. Because as long as the moment you believe that you can't do something, you'll never try. And if you never try, you'll never find out it was possible. So I'm all about believing that anything is possible just as a default, because God knows, maybe, you know, some things can be possible that you just might not normally think were possible. If you walk through life believing anything is possible, you're more likely to try and find out to see if it actually is possible. Now, whether or not thoughts alone are literally manifesting reality as we speak, I'm not too sure about that shit. The worst part is that 2 out of 2 times the people that I've known personally who abide by that shit become so self-deluded by their positive thinking religion that they literally ignore other people and other obligations they made to other people. And they just leave you hanging in the dust. And when you come back saying, hey man, you owe me the money for this, or hey, what about that you said you were going to do? They just shrug you off like a pesky fly because you're just a negative vibe getting in the way of their positive thinking. So that, you know, I mean, they're like, oh yeah, because, you know, I'm trying to positive think what I owe you. But if you ask me to give you what I owe you, then that negativity is hindering my ability to positive think what I owe you. So get away, pesky fly. And of course, I already did a video on this. So. Anyways, that is my audiobook collection. It's the audiobook collection, if you read it, really reflects a lot of the content that I produce. So it really has helped open my mind, open my understanding of things, and it's really influenced a lot of the stuff that I share. So you are what you eat, you are what you read, and I definitely recommend the books that I just told you that I recommend, guys. So thanks a lot. A lot of people were asking me, what do I read? Well, here it is, an in-depth look into my library. And yep, thank you guys. Take care.